and members to our online service, whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your life's journey, you are welcome here. At UU Catskills, we are a welcoming congregation for the LGBTQ community. We affirm that Black Lives Matter. We are a congregational affiliate of the Ulster Immigrant Defense Network. And we are active voices in the effort to address climate change. Unitarian Universalism is a liberal religious faith that carries no creed and welcomes all seekers. We are guided by 7 principles and 6 sources that encompass the many ways that we come to know and understand the world, the universe, and the divine. If you're new, we encourage you to visit our website at uucatskills.org. If you would like to be added to our mailing list, please give us your email in the chat box or online at uucatskills.org. I remind everyone that during the service, you're encouraged to stay muted. I have a few announcements, and please be sure to read the latest newsletter for the upcoming activities at UU Catskills. Following announcement information is available in the most recent weekly update also. Today we have the Grief Support Group at 7 p.m. On Tuesday, we have the Racial Justice Working Group meeting, which is on Zoom. That's from 5 to 6 p.m. Thursday is Bedtime Story and More at 7 p.m. It's a peaceful, joyful time of connection. Children and youth of all ages are welcome. On Friday, join UUCC's Climate Action Team in a weekly rally at 11 a.m. at the Academy Green in Kingston. Contact Kathy Kastner for more information. Next Sunday, October 17th, we have the Young Adult Gathering at the Rhinebeck Aerodrome at 12:30. If you're interested, contact Erin Hilgart.
Good morning. It is so good to be with you this morning. I know there are many who like the outdoor, being able to meet outdoors. I know there are people who really like being able to meet on Zoom, and we welcome you wherever you are joining us from today. And I know there are some who don't care for either, but you may be here. And we probably won't be doing this in January, let's be honest. We'll come up with a new solution, but it is a special time, isn't it? We'll remember these services, won't we? They're pretty unique. And if anybody stops by, if anyone's driving by and you hear this and you want to come in, you're very welcome. There's coffee and a picnic after the service, so come stop by. So we're going to begin our service as we do each Sunday with the lighting of the chalice. And we're lighting it now with a reading from a community activist, an ecologist, a really wonderful thinker, feminist, Starhawk, with a reading, one of my favorite readings, Community Means Strength. And I'm going to ask a member of our community, Austin, to light our chalice. Thank you, Austin. We're all longing to go home to some place we have never been. What? Oh. Can you get an electric one? We'll hear the reading and then we'll get the is running to get the adventures of an outdoor service. My apologies, I dropped the match. Community means strength. We are all longing to go home to some place we have never been. A place half remembered and half envisioned, we can only catch glimpses of from time to time. Community. Somewhere there are people to whom we can speak with passion without having the words catch in our throats. Somewhere a circle of hands will open to receive us. Eyes will light up as we enter. Voices will celebrate with us whenever we come into our own power. Community means strength that joins our strength to do the work that needs to be done. Arms to hold us when we falter. A circle of healing. A circle of friends. Some place where we can be free. I swear we didn't plan that, but what a perfect demonstration of community. Thank you, Austin. Thank you, Mark. And sorry for dropping the match. We'll join now in another expression of community, our unison affirmation. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love to all living beings. May we know once again that we are not isolated but connected in wonder and joy to mystery and miracle in the universe, in this community, and in each other. These opening words are from Know You're Not Alone and Discover the Way Our Voices Rise by Gretchen Haley. For this one moment, know only that you are loved, that you are safe and whole and loved. Know that you belong here among us, here upon this earth, in your body, however tired or broken your heart may be. Whatever fear, disappointment, anger you carry, for this hour, know you are not alone. Feel the presence of others surrounding you, breathing beside you and with you, discovering together the way our voice, our breath rises and falls together in harmony, in hope. Claim here a resilient freedom, the choice for love, for light, to live with joy and gratitude and praise as a form of resistance. Let us, we'll have our first hymn now. It's number 95. There is more love somewhere.
There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere.
So we have now a heart story, and it's introduced by our wonder box, which is a reminder of we live in a world full of wonders. And I wonder what's in our wonder box today. Would anyone like to look inside? If you could show, I think it's quite small. Do you see anything in there?
No.
Nothing? Oh gosh, sometimes it's nothing. What's that? Any idea what that is? You can try to open it. Any guesses? Anyone know what that is? It's not very exciting, but when you want it, it's quite exciting. Yes! Did everybody hear? It's a Band-Aid. Have any of you ever had to use a Band-Aid? I have. Yeah. Does anyone need one? We've got one here if anyone needs one. It's always good to know. Got one. Well, this is a story called The Nobody. And I wonder why it's called The Nobody and what it's got to do with a Band-Aid. Well, I'm going to tell you the story, and hopefully we'll find out. And it's about a woman, and we don't really know her name, but we'll say her name was Rafaela, because that seems like a very nice name. And Rafaela sometimes felt like a nobody. I don't know if you've ever felt like that, but she felt like a nobody. She came from a very, very large family, and she was one of the oldest, so she had to look after the younger brothers and sisters. A lot of times they said, go take care of your brother or your sister. And she never felt like she was seen. She always felt like she was kind of just a nobody, really. And she felt like a nobody at school. She wasn't somebody who got all these awards and everybody. She just went to school. So she felt all this time like a nobody. And so she thought maybe there's got to be more love. We heard that song, right? There's more love and more joy somewhere. So she moved away from her hometown. And she thought maybe she could find somewhere where she didn't feel like a nobody. But in this new place, Rafaela found it very hard as well. She looked a bit different from a lot of people in this town, and she also had a different religion, so that people were kind of suspicious of her. And sometimes they would make fun of her and say mean things. So she went from being a nobody to something even worse. And she thought, this is no good. She thought life is just wasn't going well. But then something happened that made her feel a little less of a nobody. And what happened is she was on her way to go to market. She was on the road walking along, and she saw a sort of a bundle, and she wasn't sure at first what the bundle was, but then she discovered it was a person. It was a man. And she saw this man, and she got closer. She saw that he was hurt. He was bleeding, and he was moaning, and clearly this man was in trouble. And she said, well, I better do something, right? So she had a Band-Aid, but she said, I don't know what I'm going to do to help this man. She felt like I need to do something. So she saw somebody who had just walked past, and she ran after him, and she said, can we help this man? Maybe you didn't see that it's a man. And this person was a businessman. And he walked on, and he said, she said, oh, this guy will be able to help. And he said, it's none of my business. And he kept moving. She said, well, and then she saw somebody who was a clergyman like myself, somebody who was a member of the clergy. And she said, well, this has got to be his business, right? So she rushed up to him, and she said, there's a man back here. But he was in too much of a hurry, and he just said, bless you, my child, thank you, and just walked on, and clearly did not hear her and did not see her, and just kept on walking. Maybe he had some place to be. But this man was still here, and he was still hurting. So she went over, and she thought, what can I do with a Band-Aid? But she put that Band-Aid on, and she knew from taking care of her brother and sister about tending to wounds. So she tried to take care of this man, and she didn't know what to do. But then while she was doing it, somebody else came who was an older woman and small, and together they couldn't quite pick her up, but she was stronger than she looked, and they started to pick her up. And then a young man came by and helped as well. And the three of them together were able to get this man to a nearby motel. And the motel owner said, because there wasn't a hospital, the motel was the closest thing. And the motel owner said, well, what's he doing here? And she said, I'll buy him a room, just put him there. And so she got him a room, and he recovered there. And she never even stayed to get the thanks or the praise, which is why we don't even know her name. But we know that Rafaela was quite a somebody. And this story has another name. Does anybody know what this story comes from? The Good Samaritan. There's a story in the Bible called the Good Samaritan, and this is thinking about who the Good Samaritan might have been. And we don't know if she was called Rafaela, and we don't know if the story ever happened. But we do know that it makes a difference when we take care of each other. And Rafaela was very far from a nobody. She was the most important person on that road that day, because she was able to help the other most important person, the person who needed some help. So she was not a nobody at all. So we'll all carry those Band-Aids, because we never know, right, when we can be the most important person in the room, when we need to be there for somebody else. And that's what life is all about. So thank you for listening. You've been a big somebody for me, and it's been great to see you. And there was a good question. There was a Band-Aid because it's talking about how we can help one another by putting Band-Aids on and being there to help one another. So that was a reminder that we may not be great at doing Band-Aids, but we can all help one another in little ways and big ways by being kind to one another. So that's what that was. So good question. Thank you very much. And we're going to have yeah, I did that. This is why the Good Samaritan wasn't the clergy person. He just couldn't get his act together. But we do, it's a community with many gifts and many talents. And speaking of which, I'd like to invite Vicky O'Doherty to read our reading from Everyday Ubuntu.
All right, there is a difference in height here. I'll put it back up. This reading is an excerpt from the book Everyday Ubuntu by Mungi engomane. Ubuntu is a way of life from which we can all learn, and it's one of my favorite words. In fact, my feeling about Ubuntu run so deeply that I've had it tattooed on the inside of my right wrist. For me, it's a small word, but it encapsulates a huge idea. Originating from South African philosophy, it encompasses all our aspirations about how to live life well together. We feel it when we connect with other people and share a sense of humanity. When we listen deeply and experience an emotional bond, when we treat ourselves and other people with the dignity they deserve. It exists when people unite for a common good. And in today's chaotic and often confusing world, its values are more important than ever, because it says that if we join together, we can overcome our differences and our problems. Whoever we are, wherever we live, whatever our culture, Ubuntu can help us coexist in harmony and peace. I was raised in a community that taught me Ubuntu as one of my earliest lessons. My grandfather, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, explained the essence of Ubuntu as, my humanity is caught up, is inextricably bound up in yours. The concept of Ubuntu is found in almost all African Bantu languages. It shares its roots with the word Bantu, meaning people, and almost always denotes the importance of community and connection. The idea of Ubuntu is best represented in both Xhosa and Zulu by the proverb Umuntu ngamuntu ngabantu, meaning a person is a person through other persons. It is a proverb which exists in all the African languages in South Africa. The word Ubuntu or closely related words are found in many other African countries and cultures. In Rwanda and Burundi, it means human generosity. In parts of Kenya, Utu is a concept which means that every action should be for the benefit of the community. In Malawi, it is Umuntu, an idea that on your own, you are no better than a wild animal, but two or more people make a community. This sense that I am only because you are runs throughout.
So I invite us into a time of meditation as we return again to the shared story of our lives on this earth. I invite you again to become aware of the people around you, physically or virtually, people to the left and right, near you at home, or those who live nearby. And maybe as we breathe in, we might notice the beloved ancestors who may be on your mind and hearts this hour. As we breathe in and out, we notice the presence of nature, the leaves turning color on the trees, the autumn air. This is where you are today. And you are not alone. You are surrounded by good people, all of them imperfect, just like you. All of them needing a little help now and then. Some of the good people in your life have helped make you who you are today. We think of them now, the teachers and mentors, the guides and companions. Wherever they are with you still here in this moment. We notice the people we may struggle with in our lives. May we be grateful for our human diversity that brings out new facets out of us and new gifts and new awarenesses of the ways we are connected. As we enter the silence, I invite us to be aware that you are a person because of other people, because of other persons. You are a part of something. This society, a part of this sometimes terrible, sometimes wonderful, always challenged, and as yet unwritten in stone society in which we live. You are a part of something. The ancestors are with you. The neighbors are with you. This congregation is with you, and it is good to be together. Let us enter into the silence now as one diverse people, breathing in and out. So may it be. Our offering this morning we are sharing the plate this morning with Sustainable Hudson Valley, whose mission is to stand up, jazz up, and leverage progress against climate change, helping us live sustainably here in the Hudson Valley and in our world. So a very important cause. You can give in person, you can donate online at uucatskills.com/donate. You can send a check to the congregation or a text to 833-643-0430 with 20 half plate or the amount and half plates. Thank you for all your generous donations. This community is a group effort, and so many people contribute so much to make this community possible. Thank you for all you bring to this place. A congregation is a living embodiment of that principle of Ubuntu. I am because we are, and together we are something truly special. The original sin of modern-day America happened in 1492. You know the story. 3 sailing ships arrived from over the seas. The locals greeted these travelers with parrots and bulbs of cottons, with gifts and greetings. And the travelers turned the guns on their hosts, murdered and raped without hesitation, brought horrors onto this land. They demanded a tribute of gold from each individual adult and child, and for those who could not come up with that tribute in the allotted time, the Europeans cut off their hands and let them bleed to death, all under the leadership of Christopher Columbus. This was the beginning of modern United States, of modern America. What we did to the people, we also did to the land. We plundered and pillaged, burned and reduced to rubble. We made everything an object, paved everything over. Of course, we're surrounded by roads here today. The road to Walmart began in 1492 on the beautiful sands of the Bahamas, on the edge of the cutlass, the barrel of a gun. I can't help but wonder if it might have been different at all if Columbus and his men had treated the women and men and children of the Arawak as human beings. Of course, it wasn't just Columbus. It was Cortez and De Soto and Ponce de Leon. It was the slave traders and the cotton industry. It was the crown and even our religious ancestors, the Pilgrims. And pretty much all done under the banner of Christianity. These men would have been familiar with the story of the Good Samaritan, right? They grew up with it. And yet when they met the stranger, they saw no humanity in the other. And consequently, the humanity in themselves became nothing but a cancer. And yes, Christianity has a lot to answer for. Cultivating relationship is our theme this month at UU Catskills. I like the sound of cultivating relationship. It calls to mind pretty simple, wonderful, everyday acts. Saying a nice word to the cashier at the supermarket, making a friend at the congregation, getting to know each other better. And cultivating relationship can be all of these things. I've myself worked on cultivating relationship over the years. As someone going through a divorce, it's obvious I'm not perfect at it. But I have learned a few things over my life. I sit next to people I don't know at conferences, and I've become pretty good at talking to strangers. Hint, ask them questions and get them talking about something they're interested in. And quite a few strangers have become friends over the years. I've learned a few things about cultivating relationship. When I was younger, I used to be completely conflict avoidant. I'm less so now, recognizing that conflict can be an invitation to dialogue. One little technique I've found useful, maybe it'll be helpful to you, is if someone is upset with me, say in a meeting, during the coffee break, I'll make a beeline for them and deliberately we'll talk about something else, you know, the weather, sports, their family, something innocuous. And that helps establish that the relationship is not at risk, that I'm not mad at them just because we're in disagreement about some matter. Over the years, I've found it helps really well in fostering dialogue. I don't know, it could be useful to you. So cultivating relationship is a wonderful thing we can do in so many little ways throughout our day. But I opened with the awful, malevolent example of Christopher Columbus to get across that cultivating relationship isn't just about tips and tricks and nice little moments in the day. And I'm not just talking about 1492, I'm talking about America. 1492 casts a long shadow. We may not be actively butchering indigenous people anymore, though the Holocaust that has been perpetuated on the people of these lands must not be forgotten. But, as you all know, we are still living in a deeply segregated society. Kingston, and I don't know Kingston well, it seems to be slightly less racially segregated than the rest of the country, and this is a good thing, although there's a long way to go yet, I know that. But America is still segregated by race, almost 70 years after Brown versus Board of Education. America is still segregated by culture. We have so many wonderful cultures within the USA, but how much do we really interact? We call it a melting pot. When what sometimes we really mean by that is that cultural differences will be ignored, looked down upon, or burnt up and assimilated into the mix. America is economically segregated. This is a big one, isn't it? Where you live, where your kids go to school, who you spend time with. Money plays a huge role. And our school system and our tax system and our infrastructure and our cultural norms all have little ways of helping the rich stay rich, which means making sure the poor stay poor. It's rigged in a million little ways. There is opportunity, but we put pretty strong electric fences around our money, and we police these fences. America's age segregated too. We have our nursing homes and our kindergartens, and not that either of those is a terrible thing at all. It would just be nice for the generations to spend a little more time together, wouldn't it? It's a privilege we get to have here. For the kindergarten and the nursing home to meet now and again, for the generations to learn from each other and enjoy each other's company. We don't have enough of that in our society. And as for being politically segregated, I don't need to remind you of that. We've all lived and breathed those divisions for the last umpteen years, and it's getting worse. America's original sin happened in 1492, but it's still being played out today. What are we going to do about these vast divisions in our corporate life, in our public life? We need to find a way to live differently. The life of pure materialism, of use the earth solely for our own benefit, use other people for our own profit without considering their humanity, this life is killing us. Ubuntu, I am because we are, is a foreign concept to me. I didn't grow up with it, but since I've heard it a few years ago, I've loved this vital truth. I am because we are. It's simple enough, but very profound. It takes a lifetime to learn. It cuts across the Western European and American myth of the self-made individual. As Catherine talked about in her marvelous service last week, which you can catch on YouTube if you didn't see it, when we look at nature, there's no such thing as a self-made anything. We all exist because of a web of relationships which we are a part. You see a tree standing tall on its own. Well, that's not a single tree. That's roots that nourish thousands of different organisms. It's a vast interplay of giving and receiving that the tree participates in. It's the same for us. I am because we are. As we heard in our reading about Ubuntu by Mungi Ngelmane, a person is a person through other persons. Descartes said, I think, therefore I am, but that's mere existence. We are a person, and not just somebody who is, who thinks. We are a person because we are participating in the shared existence together. Now, I know this is all getting a bit abstract and philosophical. When my marriage broke up, I left to live in the town next door, and I didn't know anybody. My whole life had been upended. I moved into a little house in the cul-de-sac. It was nice, cozy little house. I liked it. And even though coronavirus was raging then, as it still is to some extent now, my neighbors in that town made an effort to greet me in all these little ways. Are you new here? A smile. An invitation to their neighborhood Facebook group. Modern life can be amazing sometimes. Some advice on when the garbage got collected. I remember I was just walking out to my car on some errand when somebody yelled out to me. And it was a man a decade or two older than me, who I had seen often wandering to and fro from the local shop. And he came up to me and he said, hey, have you just moved up? And he extended a hand. And part of me was dreading it. I mean, my life had just fallen apart. I really just, many of you have probably felt this. I just wanted to kind of curl up in a ball and hide. I wasn't really looking for human interaction, but he extended a hand. And my immediate thought was COVID. I hope I have hand sanitizer inside. I don't want to be rude, but making the mental calculations, right? Do I want to do this? And I decided to shake his hand, although I suppose it was risky a little bit. And when he took my hand and he spoke to me, just told me a little bit about himself, asked about me. We had a nice, gentle conversation. And it was like electricity reviving a patient. I was transformed. I felt seen, recognized, whole in that one little interaction. And there were lots of little acts like that for me in that neighborhood. Just little smiles and conversations and petting the dog and so on. Little things, but they were enormous to me. I'm almost tempted to say they saved my life, but that may be a bit grandiose. I would have survived, but they reminded me of who I was. I think that's why I'm tempted to say they saved my life. I was a person again. A person is a person through other persons. This month is celebrating LGBTQ history. And I know so many people feel this same way about being welcomed, about how these little acts of cultivating relationship are near enough to life-saving. They remind us of who we are seen and heard. And we know what happens when that doesn't happen. There was no humanity among the invaders of this land 500 years back. They had the opportunity to be persons to the persons they met, and they turned it down. And we can do better. So I want to have a little challenge for us all, because we all love a challenge, right? Or maybe we're feeling tired, I don't know. But I want to invite us all to cross that divide that separates us from each other. We have so many divisions in our society. And it's not easy to cross them. Columbus crossed an ocean 3,000 miles, but he couldn't bridge the human gap, which was the most important gap of all. And so his story is a tragedy. So I want to invite us this October to cultivate relationship in some way. Maybe it's learning about a culture other than our own. Maybe it's finding a way to connect with another generation better. Maybe it's a smile and a little conversation with someone we meet at the shop. Whatever it is, I invite you to try in some way to cultivate relationship. Now, it may not work out. Maybe we say the wrong thing, or the connection isn't made. Maybe we trip over the speaker. We all make mistakes. But we're trying. So if you feel able to do so, I invite you to stretch out of your comfort zone a little bit once or twice this month. And you don't have to take any COVID risks to cultivate relationship. Maybe it's picking up the phone and calling that family member you haven't spoken to in 20 years. And I know that's risky enough in other ways. Don't do anything you really don't want to do, but let's try and make this society that we share better. Let's recognize our common humanity. Let's practice Ubuntu. Do something to cultivate relationship. And if you want to, feel free to share it with me. You can give me a call or email or text or pop something on the pulpit and let me know how it went, because I'm eager to know. And if you're struggling for ideas, on November 10th, I know this is November, not October, but close enough, a month from now, we're inviting the whole congregation to attend a virtual event hosted by SUNY New Paltz, where Dr. Denisa Amante Jackson, a racial equity strategist, will be talking about how we achieve diversity, belonging, inclusion, and equity in spaces, in public spaces, including spaces like our congregation. I'll be there. Lord willing, the creek don't rise, and we'll facilitate a conversation after the lecture so we can talk about it. And if you're not online, a week from today, Sunday, October 17th, the Faith for Climate Justice Group is inviting us to walk across the Hudson at the Rip Van Winkle Bridge with hundreds of other climate activists to raise our collective voices for climate justice. Talk about bridging the divide. It's physically bridging the divide. Or you can come to our weekly climate rally every Friday at 11 at Academy Green Park. But it's not about the specific event. I'm just inviting us all to stretch a little bit. We have an opportunity in this congregation to live out this sense of I am because we are. A person is a person because of other persons. There are so many divisive forces in our world at work, but let's not give up. Each of us wouldn't be here without human generosity, as well as the natural generosity of this planet, right? We live because of this abundant natural generosity of which we are a part. So let's find a way to live for others in small ways, in important ways, in ways that bridge those divides. And in so doing, we may reveal ourselves and find something wonderful in that self-revelation. Amen. So now we'll have our closing song, a song of building a better community together. Number 121, We'll Build the Land. Sisters and brothers, brethren, friends of all genders, everything feeds this soil. We only need to connect with one another, connect with this earth, with good intention, with humble heart, knowing we're only human, but what a glorious thing to be human. And something will be fed and something will grow. So go out there with kindness, with love, with giving it your best, with bridging the divides that hold us apart. Only connect and something will grow. May it be so. Amen. We now extinguish our chalice. Oh, well, the virtual chalice that's in our heart. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.